My name is Robert Trebor. I've been a character actor for more than 45 years, and I'm also the author of The Haircut, Who Would Be King, a satire about Donald Trump and the relationship between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin in particular, the bromance, as they say, which could be going south and cause a lot of problems for a lot of us. And the book, though I'm too modest to mention it, but not really, one of the critics, who was not a relative, said, "This is one of the funniest books I have ever read. It is a masterpiece." But I'm too modest to say that. But apparently this critic wasn't. So I'm here with Sissy Gamache, which sounds like a dessert.
I
you
am
know,
a dessert.
yeah, with chocolate gamache, you know.
Yes.
And I understand this may be on YouTube, so I would like the privilege of singing for the first time on YouTube an anthem for King Donald, and hopefully some delegates to the Democratic Convention, assuming there is one in July, will sing this on the convention floor. When the Donald says he has the biggest base, we hail, hail, right in the Donald's face. Not to love the Donald is a great disgrace, so we hail, hail, right in the Donald's face. Donald Trump loves disorder. He wants to spread disorder. When we look at Donny Boy, oh goodness, what a joy, when he shoves down our throat his disorder. When the Donald says he has the biggest base, we hail, hail, right in the Donald's face. Not to love the Donald is a great disgrace, so we hail, hail, right in the Donald's face. Now, I'd appreciate if that goes viral as soon as possible. You have permission to use it. I want it to spread wide and far, or far and wide, so people really pick up the real rhythm of the chance to mock Donald Trump as often as possible. Thank you.
I loved it. You're an entertainer, man.
You know, it's in the bones.
It's in the bones, in your genes, in your blood.
Yes,
You name
yes,
it.
yes,
You
yes.
name it. You
And this
name
book
it.
is an entertainment. Look, I'm not Bob Woodward. I'm not Rick Wilson. I'm not a journalist. I'm not a political pundit. I am an entertainer, as you may see. So the book is an entertainment, but we need laughter now. People need to laugh at what's happening. And people have asked, is it a danger to laugh off Donald Trump? Yes. This book, and myself in particular, I'm not laughing off Donald Trump. I'm laughing at Donald Trump. I'm poking fun. I'm satirizing. And nothing is more politically potent than satire, political satire. And that's what my book is about. It is a literary entertainment, the way as an actor, I've been a performing artist entertainer.
Beautiful, beautiful. Let's go back to the beginning.
Okay.
Again, Robert, give us a little bit of the breakdown, growing up, mama, dada.
Okay.
Your acting.
Yes.
You know, a little bit in time. We're going to get into the book, but I want to, before we do that, get a little bit of
Yeah. Okay.
where you come from.
Okay.
You're growing up with dreams and hopes.
Yes. Well, ironically, I was born in Philadelphia to very nice, middle-class Jewish parents who naturally did not want their son to be an actor. They said, do a little acting on the side. And I said, you know, I don't really want to act on the side. I want to commit to it. In fact, I went to Northwestern University, and a wonderful director, Andre Gregory, came to the University of Chicago, and I attended one of his seminars. And we were all burgeoning artists, and he looked at us very seriously and said, if you can achieve satisfaction doing anything else but acting or directing, if you can get a sense of life's purpose besides being a performing artist, do it. Do the other thing. You will have a happier, more cogent, kind of healthy life. However, if you must be an actor, if you must be a director, then do it. Absolutely full tilt commitment. Keep your eyes focused and be aware that your chances of earning a living at this, solely at acting or directing or writing, are minimal. And this does not have to do with talent. It's a combination of talent, luck, perseverance, but there are incredibly talented actors and dancers and directors and writers who will never earn a living at it. So be aware that your chances are minimal. And I knew that growing up, and my parents knew that I was not, in Yiddish, the expression is called Luftmensch, which means essentially head in the clouds. Oh, just because I'm talented, just because people like me, I'll make a living at it. No, no, no. I read bios, and I read actors' struggles, and I knew it was going to be a very tough road to hoe. Now, every person who is successful talks about the element of luck that enters into one's career. So I graduated Northwestern. I did a lot of, I think, fairly good plays and got some nice reviews. Went to New York, essentially earned very little money when I moved to New York. And then, this is funny, but it's the truth. For those of you who remember a psychotic serial killer named David Berkowitz, the son of Sam, he was captured while I was doing an off-Broadway show called Schubert's Last Serenade, downtown New York. And I was taking the subway. I lived uptown. And in New York, you know, people jostle each other and, you know, say, hey, what do you, people get close to each other. I mean, aside from this coronavirus business, New Yorkers jostle each other. So I went down the subway, and these people on the platform were going, what the hell? What are they doing? Why are they doing? And they were backing away from me, and this was not about any kind of virus. And then when I paid my fare, the attendant, the token attendant said, buddy, have you seen the newspapers recently? I said, no, I just came from a rehearsal. He said, you better take a look at the New York Post or the Daily News. And at that time we had newsstands and people read newspapers, hard copy, not just online, because there was no online. They just captured the son of Sam, and he looked like my photo double. I still have aging newspapers from the New York Post and the Daily News. It was like, what the hell? And people were, you know, now he had been captured, right? But people were scared really crapless. And so I went around my business. I had a part-time job as a market researcher. And I realized, you know, this guy looks like me. I should do some research. Because chances are they're going to make some kind of a play or a movie or something. And there was a play about a year after he was captured called The New Living Newspaper, off-Broadway at Playwrights Horizons. And among the characters I played was David Berkowitz. And it was written kind of like where you hear him going bark, 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 you know, where he's like playing the dog. And I said, this is pretty thin. This is not what I believe David Berkowitz. So I did some research, and I found a letter that David Berkowitz had written to a platonic girlfriend while he was stationed in Korea. And the letter went something like, this is literally 35, 40 years ago. I don't want to hurt people. I just want to be friends with people. I don't know what's wrong. I've been taking a lot of drugs, and I don't, oh my, I'm all fucked up. You know, I've gotten good with a gun. Don't make me use it on you. Now, he wrote this from Korea years before he ever killed anybody. But that is the piece that went into this off-Broadway show. It was something that I compiled. It was actually his words, but they were in the newspaper, so there was no copyright. And that was what I just wore a plain white shirt, and I just talked to the audience as though I was talking to this girlfriend. And you could kind of hear the audience stop breathing, because this was literally a year after he was captured. And the newspapers at that time wrote, they showed my picture, they said, this is a wonderful show, it is a terrific cast, however, the standout is Robert Trebor. And producers note, if you ever do a Son of Sam movie, there is nobody except Robert Trebor for the part. 8 years after I did that show, CBS did a movie with Martin Sheen called Out of the Darkness. And I, you know, studied the sides and so forth, but I did a little piece of that show where I say, I've gotten good with a gun, don't make me use it on you. And Martin and the director and the producers went. So I said, okay. And then Martin came over to me and shook my hand and said, I am really glad to have met you. The next day I got a call from my agent saying, you got the part. So the movie is Out of the Darkness. You can see parts of it on YouTube. So I played apparently a fairly successful psychopath. Now, let's fast forward 10 years to where I played Salmonius on Hercules and Xena. That part of Berkowitz got me to meet John Frankenheimer and Oliver Stone, and I had a fairly prestigious run in a number of features. But they didn't make a lot of money. So let's face it, in this business, you can get great reviews, but if you don't make money, you keep struggling. So Hercules and Xena came around, and it was a hit. It was my first hit. I went around the country and around the world signing autographs and stuff. But after having played successfully, apparently, a psychopath and then a salesman, you know, the intersection of psychopath and salesman might be considered Donald Trump. So when he was elected, much to the shock of me and the nausea of like 66 million other people, it was one of these things where either you have to bury your head in the ground or you have to stay angry and nauseated forever, or, in my case, write a book, write a satire. I'm still getting acting gigs. I was in Hail Caesar, the Coen brothers film. I'm actually doing a part now. It's a really wonderful part of a Tel Aviv violin maker, a luthier, named Amnon Weinstein. We're doing this in Los Angeles called Violins of Hope, based on a documentary of the same name. A playwright, Lisa Rosenbaum, wonderful playwright in L.A., created a narrative based on the documentary. I'm playing Weinstein. 4 other actors are playing other characters, and we're doing this. I think we're opening April 19th in Los Angeles, but you can find out about that. But in between acting gigs, I had to kind of write myself out of this funk. And what they say, much more famous authors than I, you write the book you want to read. And I wanted to read this. So I kind of did it to entertain myself, and I showed it to my wife and my sister and said, you know, this is pretty good. You should show this to other people. You should create a narrative. I created anecdotes. I knew what the characters would be. I call him Donald D. Rump and Vladimir Putin. I kind of, you know, and as I say in the book, these characters are purely a matter of my imagination. Any resemblance to anyone living or dead is purely coincidental. ... Well, maybe not purely. I mean, so it's clearly it's from my imagination, but I'm using known information about Trump and flipping it and putting it into a prism or a funhouse mirror. And a lot of people have found it very amusing. And I think that's a gift I can give people, and it's a gift that I have the talent to do it.
Robert, how long did you have the idea to doing it? Because obviously it was a big shock, not only for the entire country, for the entire world.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Not even Trump was expecting.
Correct. Right. He was hoping he'd lose and then create a TV series to replace The Apprentice. Yeah, right, right.
He was not in his plans to win. He won. Now, when after he won, like how soon you started, okay, I gotta write, I gotta get it out of my system, I gotta laugh out, I gotta create something special.
Within days. Within days of his election. I couldn't, I mean, you know what? I was actually seeing I was seeing a comedy, a German comedy called Tony Erdmann, about a guy who's an imposter who tries to convince his daughter that he's a social analyst, and he puts in false teeth. It's this clown. And when Deirdre and I thought that Hillary was going to win, we went back to the store. It was a 3-hour movie. We thought that Hillary would be announced the winner. We went to the store, and the clerks said, so how much has Hillary won by? And they looked at me and they said, it's going the other way. What? It looks like Trump's going to win the presidency. I mean, it was like, we just saw a movie about a comic imposter who's like divulged, and it turns out he's unmasked as an imposter, and this guy's going to win? And then it turns out he loses the popular vote by 3 million, which I think was even bigger than what Bush W. lost by to Gore. It's the biggest loss of popular vote in history, but he won the Electoral College. And so within days...
But we still don't know, really, quite frankly, if you really won.
Well, yeah, I mean...
You know, there's still, you know, there's a lot of stuff that we...
The thing is, I don't think Putin was actually able to flip votes, but he suppressed votes in big cities like Philadelphia, let's say Philadelphia, Michigan, and Wisconsin. So in Detroit and Philadelphia, let's say in Obama, many more people, many more Democrats came out. So between Comey and the like 3 days before the election saying, okay, it looks like Hillary's telephone was not, but it looks like she's still in the clear. But by that time, people had soured on Hillary, but the Trump base was still out in force, and so it suppressed the vote, and that probably led to Trump's election.
No, so let me ask you.
Yeah.
Are you interested in politics?
Well, it's funny. In high school, I did a lot of theater, but it came to the point where I was probably conceited, or I was too bragging about it. I think I knew more about acting than the guy who ran the theater department, and he was really annoyed. So it made it clear that I was not going to get any more acting parts. So I was kind of involved in high school politics for a while, and I became the president of the student government. And I went down to, it was Philadelphia. I met with the superintendent, and we helped create this thing called the Students' Bill of Rights and Responsibilities, which was it was a booklet that said that students must be accorded respect, must be accorded a certain amount, but they have the responsibility to earn that respect. They can't just, put graffiti all over the building. It's got to be both. So yeah, I mean, I kind of was interested in politics, which led my parents to believe I should be a lawyer rather than an actor.
You sound like an attorney as well.
Well, I played attorneys. I know the drill. Yeah, and parenthetically, one of my agents at the time, this is after I did 52 pickup and talk radio, and I was getting, a certain amount of stature. They booked me for a film. It was out of SAG's jurisdiction, but SAG said you can do it, but we can't protect you. Now that's changed. It's something called SAG Rule Number 1. Any film you do anywhere in the world will be protected by SAG rules and regulations. This was shot in Belize, and I expected my agents to look after me, and they kind of screwed up the contract, and I was never paid. These are people I'd been with, paid them a fair amount of commission on a lot of things, and I really felt screwed. I felt I was betrayed, and I took them to arbitration. I took the agents to arbitration after I fired. It's bad to sue agents you're currently with. They take it badly. So I sued them. They got to do it. I took them to arbitration as part of the clause, and even though it was a non-SAG movie, I was in a SAG contract with the agents. Now, the agents hired their attorney from the Agents Guild. I represented myself. As my own lawyer, I had the facts. I subpoenaed other actors who had their agents put their salary in escrow. Mine didn't, even though they promised they would. And so there was a neutral arbitrator. I made a fairly good case, and I used a dramatic metaphor. Imagine that the owner of the agency runs a hospital, and he's supervising an incompetent doctor who uses faulty instruments, unsterilized instruments, and gives the patient sepsis, gives the patient an infection. Well, the doctor is the owner of the agency. The incompetent doctor was the agent who negotiated this contract, and I am the patient. And with some modesty or no modesty, the other side, their jaws dropped because it was an apt metaphor. And the arbitrator said, okay, I think we're finished with this procedure. The agent's rep, not their lawyer, but the guy who was in charge of the union of agents, Sanford Wolf, came over to me and said, what are you doing messing around with this acting business? You're a hell of a lawyer. You really made, and this guy is in the camp of the agents, and he complimented me on the way I presented myself. And I told him, if you think I'm a good lawyer, you should see some of my acting. So it's the ability. I knew I was in the right. As a lawyer, you can't earn a living if you only defend innocent people. So I knew I was in the right. I had my details, I had my protocol, and enough dramatic presence of mind to come up with a good metaphor. But to actually earn a living at it, I mean, in fact, when I played the son of Sam, and I started getting a lot of attention, and I told my parents were really, really thrilled in the whole neighborhood. My dad came over to me and said, did we ever do anything to you that made you play the psychotic so successfully? And I said, no, you guys were great. You gave me a very nice upbringing. As a craftsperson, I could tap into other stuff. It wasn't the way you raised me. But I said to them, aren't you glad I played the psychopath rather than the lawyer who would defend the psychopath? Which would be my responsibility. everybody deserves a good defense, a good, vigorous defense. And so then, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I have that ability, I guess, to play a lawyer or to represent myself successfully, but I want to play a lot of, I mean, part of the fun of being a character actor is to play the salesman, play the psychopath, play the lawyer, play the rabbi, play an Islamic genie in a wonderful script called A Guest of the Sultan. Unfortunately, the playwright died. We did a reading and a workshop. But the ability to empathize and put yourself in the shoes of other people and get paid for it and move people to either laughter or sympathy or shock or whatever, that's part of the gift of what an actor can do.
Going back to the book, how long did you put that together?
Well, I took about 7 months to write it in its entirety, which is, originally I wrote...
Was it a smooth process?
Well, fairly smooth, although I wrote, in certain things you get inspired and you can write several pages and then you kind of blank. And part of my advice to writers is chain yourself to your chair until something comes out, because you can't just work on inspiration. I mean, I wrote another book called Dear Salmonius when I was doing the TV series Hercules. I was contracted to write it. I had a deadline, and after 20 or 30 pages, in fact, in that book it was Dear Abby, and I have Donald Trump writing Salmonius for financial advice. This was like 20 years ago, and I gave him advice how to save his money from women who were trying to divorce him and stuff. But that book, I mean, I had a contract. I had to finish it, and it wasn't going to write itself. This I had a deadline. This book, I had more freedom, but I wanted it to come out in time for the election. I wanted it to be persuasive in even a small way that people could think twice about voting for him if they were on the fence. So my own deadline, in a sense.
Of course. So it wasn't stressful in any way, besides the fact that you wanted to be on time.
I wanted to be on time, and you know what they say about writing in particular? They say you have to kill your favorite babies, meaning if you're attached to something, but it kind of delays it stops the pace of the book. It stops the train on its course. You got to let it go. You got to cut it. So I originally wrote about 300 pages, and I cut down to 184.
But those 300 pages, you still saving the original.
I do. I do. I do.
Back to it, or you go
No, I can't. Because I know why I cut it.
Okay.
Because I wanted this book, especially it's comic, and a comedy.
It's really fast. It's your fascinating to read.
Thank you.
And you just sit down and you can read it, and you don't even want to stop reading it.
You can read it in 3 or 4 hours and read the whole thing and get the good of it. And I wanted to have a propulsive momentum. And the 300 pages, it was interesting, and they were side likes. And I'm saying to myself, I'm saying, well, you can put it down and pick it up. I said, Bob, and then I showed it to my wife. She said, this is okay, but it's not necessary. If you're on the train, you want the train to get to the destination and pick up momentum as it goes along. And I think that's what it does. I think that's what the book does.
I'm taking a picture.
Yes. Oh, okay. Okay.
So Alex, the guy that you were in touch with, sending pictures of the work.
Okay. Good.
No, I love the book. I think it's
Thank
easy
you.
to read, and it flows.
Yeah.
And the timing is perfect. I love the fact that you, including whether it's Trump or Putin, Hillary Clinton, then Hitler, when you have a segment that says, well, but let me give you a piece of advice. If you're interested in serious about gathering real political power,
That's right.
then you need to read Hitler.
Right. And that's
About that.
okay.
Very powerful,
Okay.
powerful things
Yes.
going on.
Yes. Well, this apparently is factual. Ivana, his first wife, whom he divorced way before he ever thought about political law. Ivana said that Donnie Boy would keep a copy of Mein Kampf as a little light bedside reading, as much as he could read anything. Because let's face it, I think he said literally while he was president, I can't read too much because the mind only has a certain amount of energy, and I don't want to waste it reading. This is the guy who's the leader of the free world. Now, apparently he read little excerpts, which I use in the book. And again, I'm very proud as a Jew to have stolen from Hitler. And I don't plagiarize because I attribute, but I think it's only karmically valid for the Jew to steal from, the biggest Jew hater of all time. And some of the quotes I quote right from Mein Kampf. One of the ones I think is most meaningful, 2 of them are, how lucky for leaders that men do not think. In this case, obviously, it can be men and women, because they use their guts or they use their bowels. They don't actually think about the consequences of what they're doing. Another Hitlerism that Donnie absorbs is, it is not truth that is important, but victory. In other words, in the service of just winning at all costs, the truth can be run over like a poor orphan by a train. It doesn't matter about the truth. Another one is that I quote, the leader...
A lot of great, I'm sorry for interrupting.
Yeah.
A lot of great quotes.
Yeah.
Just a lot of
Yeah. Now he can't read, as I say, he reads here and there. He reads a quote. He can't really read a whole page, but he reads a paragraph. And another one is, the leader must focus the population on a single enemy and never let anything divulge, not let anything defer or actually move away from that single focus on the enemy. So when he keeps talking about fake news and the fake news, that's Trump's enemy that he hopes his base, because he's never tried to expand his base to the whole country, will keep focusing on when obviously a dictator hits the press and destroys the press first.
And when he says the great masses of the people will move easily, right?
Be moved by a big lie.
But a big lie then to a small lie.
Then a small lie. And this is and Trump absorbs all this, as I think he did.
Now, do you think, in terms of he's just analyzing Trump, there's still people who are behind it.
Yep.
Even to this point.
Yeah. Even if he shoots somebody on Fifth Avenue.
You can get away with
That's
it.
right.
Why do you think it's a fascination with Trump?
Well,
Let's see if you can break it
okay.
down. You wrote a book about it.
Here I am in the mind. Part of my empathy must be to put myself into the cult of Trump. And it is a cult. So why are people susceptible to cults? Any cult. I think it's because there is a nagging emptiness within their lives. They can't satisfy their own goals. They can't seem to master something important that will give them influence and appreciation in the community. So they kind of bond to this moving target. If Trump never did The Apprentice, I don't think he'd be president. And that was a phony impersonation of Donald Trump that Mark Burnett acknowledges he created. The boardroom and your Donald Trump never did any of that. It was a closely held company. He created this image of Trump that Trump could play, and he loved it, and audiences loved him. Maybe I could be that successful. Maybe I could be an apprentice. Maybe I could be a contestant. And I think that's why there's this Trump base, even now, as he's destroying all norms, shows his absolute incompetence to deal with coronavirus or anything else for the past 3.5 years. But they think, well, wait a minute. I was for this guy, and a lot of people cannot be told that they were wrong, either by the press, because it embarrasses them. How could I have fallen? How could I have been a sucker for Donald Trump? Oh no, I wasn't a sucker, and so they double down. He's still my guy. You're wrong. I can't be wrong, because they invested so much in his phony appearance that they still have to stay invested. Now I got to tell you, I do theater, I do a lot of theater, I do film. Some people feel this way about standing ovations. They're not really deserved, in my opinion. A standing ovation should be because you are so thrilled by the performance, you can't sit down. You've got to stand up. The energy has got to go up to the top. But a lot of people spend $200 to see a show, and they think, well, goddamn, this wasn't that good, but I'm not a sucker. I'm going to stand. I'm going to justify the $200 I spent.
Broadway.
Now, the problem is Broadway, or it is what happens when there really is a show worth a standing ovation. If it's already been denatured and neutered, then what do? You stand on the chair and jump up to this. What else can you do? And sometimes my wife and I, we've enjoyed a show. It's a good show, but it's not worth a standing ovation. And everybody's standing up around us. And it's like, now I hate to say this, because God knows when I'm on stage, I'd like a standing ovation, but I'd like it to be earned. because people can't contain their enthusiasm. And had a wonderful teacher, he died, his name was Milton Katselis in Beverly Hills, the Beverly Hills Playhouse. And he would say, yeah, audiences stand up for card tricks these days. I mean, it's been so denatured that the standing ovation no longer has the real import it had 30, 40, 50 years ago. And that's like Trump. So apropos your original question, by way of saying, people don't want to seem foolish.
Right.
They are in denial that they made the wrong decision, and so they'll cling on to it desperately for their own sake of self-identity. I think that's why.
Robert, you give very substantial answers, and I love it.
And you're going to cut this down, to find a way to cut this in some way.
If I make a 5-minute reel out of it,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't cut my interviews.
Okay.
Like, there's time. There's no pressure of time.
Okay.
This so we can
Great.
talk as much as we can.
Great.
I guess we have about maybe another 20 minutes.
Okay.
We're covering Trump. Do you think he's going to be reelected?
Boy, I hope not.
But
I hope not.
I'm hoping
Okay, I got to tell you, let me,
Okay.
okay, hopefully I won't offend people because I really would like some people to buy my book. But in my opinion, Bernie Sanders is the left version of Trump. I know you may. However, I think there's been a cult that has developed. Now you're going to cut the interview. Huh? I got to tell you, Bernie. But if you think honest, yeah, but I think, but
he's not going to win.
But that's it.
Fine.
The most
But it's
important,
so
but the most isn't. But the most
Those
important,
guys capable.
but the most important thing is to defeat Trump. And my problem with
I
Bernie,
don't think Joe Biden is
I think he will.
I tell you this.
Yeah.
We're gonna fight.
Yeah.
And I know that we have a referee, but Mike is
Okay.
a very easygoing guy. So
Yeah.
he's not gonna throw any punches.
Okay.
4 years ago, Hillary Clinton was the best ticket.
Yeah.
She was the smart woman. She was in government. She was the Secretary of State. She was a former
Highly
first
qualified,
lady,
yes.
Highly qualified, high knowledgeable.
Right.
She devoted her life to public
Right.
service and a great attorney,
Mhm.
brilliant
Mhm.
woman
Mhm.
in foreign affairs,
Mhm.
very knowledgeable.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, she didn't win. And she was the best face
Right.
of the Democratic Party.
Yes.
What makes you think that Joe Biden, which he's a very smart guy,
Yep.
very likable,
Yep.
he knows how to behave,
Yes.
he knows diplomacy,
Yes.
he knows the White House.
Yes.
No question about that. I like the guy.
I'll
but
tell
what
you
makes
the.
you
I'll
think
tell you the
we
difference.
are going to do that.
He knows how to connect with people in a way that Hillary never did.
But she doesn't have
No, but if you see Biden talking about the death of his son, when you see him talk to people and genuinely that they've suffered something in their life, he goes up to them and it's not phony and it's not ladled on.
He's not connecting to the young generation.
But he connects with the people who vote and
What
the
about
voters.
young voters?
I understand that.
Sanders is
Bernie is
the
expanding that, but more people. Look, if
You
Bernie.
know who's the true leader? You know the history.
Yeah.
When you and me were gone,
Yeah.
and Mike, you too.
Yeah.
Included in that list.
Yes.
History will talk about a man who made a stand, a man who was brave enough to say, "Wait a minute, health is a need." It's
Absolutely.
so, realistically, in terms of history,
Yes.
yeah, Joe Biden.
He will be,
brilliant,
but he will
but
be.
the one who's going to be looked up.
Yes.
The one that people going to
Yes.
there was a man.
Yes.
Back in after.
And Bernie
2012
deserves that.
who
Bernie
was
deserves that.
Bernie Sanders,
But Bernie
not
will
anybody
not. Bernie
else.
will not beat Trump.
Oh,
You may be too young. Do you remember a candidate called George McGovern?
no,
Do you?
no,
Okay.
no,
Okay. Look him up. Look him
I
up.
promise I will. But
Please.
I do a lot of
He
research.
fought against Nixon. He campaigned against
Oh,
Nixon.
yes, I heard about
Now,
it. There's a
now.
documentary.
Yes, now. I don't know, what can I use bad language?
Go ahead.
There was a
Go ahead.
Republican group under Nixon's time, Lee Atwater and Lucy Ann Goldberg, and they proudly called themselves the Rat Fuckers. And they wanted McGovern to be the candidate against Nixon when a man named Edmund Muskie, look him up also, analogous to Biden, would have been a much stronger challenger. Edmund Muskie in the second term might have defeated Nixon, and that drove Republicans crazy And so Republicans supported George McGovern and gave to his campaign. And George McGovern was the candidate against Nixon's reelection. And George McGovern lost 49 states. He didn't even win his own state.
On the record.
On the record. He lost 49 states, and Nixon swept to victory. Now, Nixon eventually left office because he was going to be impeached and removed. But Edmund Muskie, please look this up, is the analog to Joe Biden.
Let me, because this is good stuff.
Yeah.
Mike, this answers one if you can get a little tighter on his face. And then it's a book out of
Yeah, but now we're talking about, life and death. Sure. Get me closer. Get me tighter on the face. Because this is good. We're having a look into, but you need to learn. I'm a little older, and you need to learn about the Muskie.
I love history. I do a lot of reading, and I God knows that I
look about the Muskie.
My father was a great journalist.
Oh, great.
My father was like,
is he still?
No, he died
okay.
5 years ago. He died at 70.
Yeah.
But my father was a great.
Okay.
Great.
I hope people will read about the Muskie McGovern debates and the way the Republicans engineered McGovern's candidacy, and he lost 49 states. I'm not saying Bernie would lose 49 states, but where I think those 3 states that Trump won, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, those working people love Biden. I think will vote for Biden.
When I'm behind the camera with him taking some pictures of me, please, Mike.
I think they will vote for Biden, and if those 3 states and he keeps all the other states, New York and California, which will be for the Democratic candidate, I think that's why Trump and Putin want Sanders.
Sure.
You know about Operation Chaos? And Putin, they were hoping that Sanders would be the nominee and it's not because Putin loves Sanders.
Right.
It has nothing to do with socialism. They think Sanders will be the easiest candidate for Trump to beat.
But it's unpredictable.
I
do believe that it's a big degree of unpredictability.
Okay.
Listen, we never thought that somebody like Trump was going to be in the White House.
Right.
He's in the White House.
Right. Yep.
So, we live very unpredictable times. And whatever we think is going to happen, Biden, in terms of like somebody said it today, Biden is the candidate the party wants.
Not just the party, the people in the primaries. That's why he's ahead. He's ahead in delegates because there's a certain look. Bernie has a wonderful vision. However, I got to tell you, as an actor, when you look at him, he's a kind of troll. He hunches his shoulders, and I'm telling you, I believe he energizes a lot of people, and he will scare a lot of people. And the scaring of the people,
the body language doesn't help him.
Not just the body language, but his whole, he is kind of a left-wing version of Trump, and he enthuses people like Trump, and Trump scares a lot of people, like 3 million more than voted for him. But in the states with a large blue-collar electorate, Biden really connects on a human level.
Biden is conventional.
I know.
Sanders is.
I know.
He is making a statement. History.
I know it will, but if he is the nominee, if Sanders is the nominee, Trump will win.
Well,
he'll be reelected.
No matter what.
No, I don't think he'll win against Biden. We don't know.
I'm telling you now.
With my book and Joe Biden,
okay, this is what I want to get into that.
Yes.
Number one, and see, because we want to make sure that we cover this.
Yes.
Quick. What do we do with Donald Trump? What would you do? What would you tell him if you had the opportunity to see him?
Yes.
And you have 2 minutes.
Okay.
Say, okay, Mr.
What I would tell Mr. Trump is, please tweet about my book in a negative way, because I can use the sales. When you have a negative tweet, like you did about Fire and Fury, the sales go through the roof. I hope somebody, because he wouldn't read the book, even though it's a fairly short book to read, if somebody reads him a couple passages, hopefully he'll have a conniption fit and then tweet, "Who is this guy? He doesn't, Robert, he played a psychopath, huh?" Yeah, Donnie, I know about a psychopath. and you're a pathological liar. But I mean, there's no way you can, people thought Trump would become presidential. No way. He's never served anybody but himself. It's all Trump uber alles all the time. His first priority is Trump, then it's Trump, then Trump, 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 America, Ivanka. So if America's interest down the line does not oppose Donald Trump, he won't be against it. But the major interests are self-serving, lining his own pockets, Mar-a-Lago, his fan base. The guy gets energy like crazy. That's why he can talk for an hour and a half, because he's got all these cultists who are in the, yeah, Donald. But even some of them are, especially with the coronavirus and the market tanking like, more than 15, 20%. If he doesn't have the economy, believe me, he's going to have a real hard problem winning the election.
Sure, he's going to get reelected?
I don't think,
no?
If Biden is the nominee, I think he'll lose. Mark my words.
If he stays in power for another 4 years, what do we do? You're going to write a second version?
Well, if he stays in power for another 4 years, I don't want to say how fucked we are, because I think at some point he may become the first president who is impeached twice. As long as the Democrats hold the Congress, hold the House, he may be impeached twice, because he will have done enough new damage and new unconstitutional acts to deserve a second impeachment. Now, look, hopefully that the Democrats will take the Senate too, although it's harder because Mitch McConnell needs to leave the gravedigger Mitch, where laws go to die, where he could get bipartisan support. But if the majority of the Republican senators don't want it, he just kills it and tables it, which is a pretty rotten feature of our democracy. But if he's elected for another 4 years, I mean, I do believe there'll be damage, real, I don't want to say permanent, because I think I'm more of an optimist than that, but real lasting damage that may take generations to heal, because whoever becomes president then will think it's an imperial presidency. If Donald could get away with it, why can't I get away with it? And that's true for a Republican or Democrat. So then the first power of the Constitution, the legislature, will be neutered, as it essentially has become. And the legislature needs to assert its primacy.
Getting right to the point, because we're going to leave soon.
Yeah.
What was the... It's a dumb question, but...
Yeah.
What was the inspiration for the book besides Trump?
Well,
what was the biggest inspiration? What was the lesson, the biggest lesson for you during the process?
Of writing?
Of writing the book, yes.
I think it's to keep at it. In other words, there were certain inspirational things, like the stuff about Hitler and the stuff about, I have a thing about his cousin where he cut off her hair and stapled it to his own head because he was going prematurely bald. I mean, there were inspirational moments, but I didn't just want to write an essay. I didn't want to write paragraphs. I really wanted to write a book. So the biggest lesson is have confidence in your own motor and then do the hard work to finish the job, because nobody wants to read an unfinished book. And in fact, one of the reviewers said the book is funny and it's got a great satirical point, but it ends with fireworks the reader can't even dream of. And again, it's to a degree, let the story tell you where it wants to go. If you're really into the story, let it guide you. And the story wanted me to go to where it goes, which is, and I have a way of describing it, a house of cards wrapped in Monty Python on the way to Dr. Strangelove. So if you know those references, you'll have a clue to where the book is going.
Another point, and to close it up,
yeah.
Do you think this book is relevant?
Yes, it is relevant and hopefully politically persuasive. I hope enough people read the book, buy the book, that if they're on the fence about Donald, it might make him look like the utter clown and incompetent and dangerous incompetent he really is while you're laughing. The whole point of laughter is a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. Laughter is not to divert you from the truth. It's to help you internalize the truth more effectively.
And where do we can get the book?
You can get the book on Amazon. Oh, go to my website, roberttrebor.net. R-O-B like boy, E-R-T, T-R-E-B like boy again, O-R. My name is reversible. It's called a palindrome. roberttrebor.net. And it's a lot of fun. You can buy the book on the site. I have Trump and Putin winking and blowing kisses at each other in an animated GIF. I have a little blog. I also have some clips from me as the Son of Sam and as Salmonius, so you can see how those two characters create the basis for writing about Trump.
And the last quote,
yes?
You want to say final thought?
Please
For
read
humanity,
for the sake of humanity. Oh, I know. Something I said at the reading tonight. I have an update from the coronavirus. It was written by the coronavirus because it's feeling attacked. The coronavirus wants to state it is working to contain Donald Trump. That many people are suffering, millions, with Trumpitis and Trumpism, and the coronavirus is doing its best to hold Donald Trump in check, and it guarantees a vaccine will be coming against Donald Trump November 3rd, Election Day. You have the chance to get a vaccination against Donald Trump and throw him out of office. There you go. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay.